And now may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Spring training is just underway here in Florida, and with baseball season just around the corner, I've started to watch some of the great baseball movies, at least great as far as I'm concerned. And I started out with Bull Durham. Bull Durham is the story of a hapless minor league ball club, the Durham Bulls. And in a moment of just utter and complete frustration, the manager just says to his players, "This is a simple game. You throw the ball. You hit the ball. You catch the ball." Baseball may be simple, throw, hit, catch. But if you played baseball, or even softball, or if you've watched baseball, you know it is not easy. Simple, but not easy. In today's reading from Jeremiah, Jeremiah outlines a very simple way of life, a simple way of life where we will be blessed, we will be happy, we will be fulfilled. On the one hand, he says, "Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They'll be like a tree planted by the water, not fearing the heat. Leaves are always green. No worries in a year of drought. Never failing to bear fruit." So do this, trust in the Lord, and don't do this. Don't draw strength from mere flesh. Don't trust in men. Don't let your heart turn away from the Lord. A very simple recipe for a blessed, fulfilled, and happy life. Simple, but not easy. Not easy because of our hearts. Now, when Jeremiah is talking about our hearts, he's not talking about the heart in our body that pushes our blood. Jeremiah is talking about our desires, our loves, and our wants. Because our desires and our loves, human nature being what it is, tend to turn away from the Lord. And so a simple recipe for life is not easy. And quite frankly, can be difficult. It can be difficult because our desires, our loves, and our wants, they become disordered. They get out of order. They're not the right priorities, however you want to express it. So I'd like you to try a thought experiment with me right now. For this thought experiment, I want you to think about your desires, your loves, and your wants. Whatever they may be, as it relates to family, to money, to hobbies, to the Lord, a new car, a bigger house, a faster boat, a better golf game. You fill in the blanks. Your deepest desires, your deepest loves, your deepest wants. And this is just for you right now. And as you're thinking about this collection, start to arrange them in a list, most important to least important. Rank order them, order of merit. High priority, low priority. And as you're arranging them, as you're arranging your deepest desires, your deepest loves, your deepest wants, take a moment and compare that list and your priorities Oh, and by the way, I did this last night. More on that later. Compare it with Jesus' great commandment. Jesus said the first commandment is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is the only Lord. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind and all your strength. And the second is like unto it: love your neighbor as yourself. So, how does your list compare with Jesus' great commandment? How did you do? Well, as I mentioned, as I was reviewing my notes and I was doing this exercise for myself, I came up short in comparing my priorities, my deepest desires, loves, and wants with the Lord's. And I struggle with Jeremiah's simple explanation of a blessed, happy, and fulfilled life. Because so many times in my life, my heart turns away from the Lord. And so as I was thinking on all of this, I'm wondering, okay, where do I go here? Now, I'm asking this question just for me, myself, and I, for the three of us. Where do I go from here? But I'm also asking the question as a preacher before a congregation, where do we go from here? Do we just leave it at that? With our struggles in trying to live a blessed and happy and fulfilled life, a life where perhaps you and perhaps your heart turns away from the Lord? And just like this morning, when the AC came on, good news. We need to hear good news. I need to hear good news when I struggle and when my heart turns away from the Lord. And for me, that good news comes in the letter to the Hebrews, where the writer says to God's people, we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. We do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses. He knows our weaknesses. He knows our struggles. We have one in every respect who has been tested as we are, yet without sin. And because of that, because of who Jesus is, because of his death, because of his resurrection, because he's ascended to the right hand of the Father, because of all of that, when we struggle, we can approach the throne of grace with boldness. We have a right to be in that courtroom. We have a right to be in the court of the Lord. And we have a right to be there because Jesus has gone before us. So let us approach the throne of grace with boldness so that we may receive mercy and grace to help in time of need. In that time of need, when we find ourselves struggling with this simple way of life, trusting in the Lord, that time of need when we find our hearts drifting away from the Lord calls us into his presence so that he might give us mercy and grace. And so as you're thinking on this very simple but not easy way of life that Jeremiah outlines for us for today, this simple but not easy way to live a fulfilled and blessed and happy life, when you sense your heart turning away from the Lord, when you sense fear creeping in, when the stressors of life turn up the heat, when you sense your soul and your spirit are like a shrub in the desert, dwelling in a parched place of the desert, or becoming anxious in a year of drought. When you find yourselves in those places, that's when we need to remember the good news from the letter to the Hebrews that calls us to approach the throne of grace with boldness, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. And now to him who sits upon the throne and to Christ the Lamb be worship and glory and honor and splendor, now and forever. Amen.